The morning sun spilled softly through the kitchen window, scattering golden light over the polished countertops. The smell of fresh coffee and vanilla muffins filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of lavender from the vase on the table. I hummed quietly as I arranged the small bouquet of roses I had picked from my garden the night before. Today was my mother's birthday, or so I thought. My son, Ethan, was unusually quiet, perched at the kitchen table, spinning a spoon absent-mindedly in his cereal. His brow furrowed in a way that made my stomach clench with unease, though I brushed it off. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I asked, trying to smile. "I'm fine, Mom," he muttered, but his eyes kept darting toward the front door, sharp and calculating. It was strange. He was usually carefree, full of chatter about school, his friends, or the latest superhero movie. But today there was an edge, a caution in the way he sat, as if he were measuring every sound, every shadow. I shook my head, trying to push away the prickling doubt that had begun to crawl up my spine. "It's just Grandma's birthday. Nothing scary about that." He didn't respond, only nodded slightly, his small fingers tightening around the spoon. I sighed, finishing the last touches on the gift bag, wrapping paper meticulously folded, a delicate ribbon tied into a perfect bow. The cake was ready, the candles waiting. Everything looked normal. Everything should have been normal. By mid-morning, we were on our way. I buckled Ethan into his seat, making sure he had his favorite blanket, and slid into the driver's seat. The car smelled faintly of leather and lavender air freshener. I turned the key in the ignition, but before the engine hummed to life, Ethan's small hand shot out and pressed firmly against the door lock button. "Mom, stop," he said, his voice steady but low. "Something's wrong." I laughed lightly, masking the sudden chill that snaked down my spine. "Don't be silly, Ethan. It's just Grandma's birthday." But his eyes, wide and searching, held an intensity that I couldn't ignore. There was no childish exaggeration there, only pure instinct. My heartbeat quickened as I scanned the empty street, the sunlight streaming in as if nothing could go wrong. Yet a shadow of doubt crept in, stubborn and cold. I tried to calm myself with logic, with reason. "Maybe it's just your imagination," I whispered, though my voice betrayed me, trembling slightly. He didn't respond, only stared ahead, his grip on the seat tightening. The way he looked at me, it was almost like he was seeing things I couldn't, sensing danger in the invisible folds of the day. We sat in silence for a few moments, the quiet pressing against my ears. I could feel it, the subtle shift in the air, the unspoken tension lurking beneath the mundane details of morning light and birthday plans. A small, uneasy voice inside me whispered that everything I thought I knew about today was fragile, that the world I had carefully built could shatter at any second. I forced a smile, reaching over to squeeze his hand. "All right, Ethan, let's just be careful, okay?" He nodded again, and this time there was a fleeting, fragile trust in his eyes. But even as I started the car and pulled out of the driveway, I couldn't shake the feeling that today, the day I had planned to be perfect, would change everything. Something was coming, something I had never expected, and I had no idea how deep the betrayal would run. The streets were unusually quiet that morning, as if the city itself were holding its breath. I kept glancing at Ethan in the rear-view mirror, his small face set with a seriousness that unnerved me. He hadn't spoken much since we left, only occasionally shifting in his seat, eyes scanning the passing houses as if expecting something to leap out at us. "Ethan," I said gently, trying to mask the tremor in my voice, "are you sure everything's okay?" He didn't answer immediately. His lips pressed together, and he slowly shook his head. Then, with an unexpected firmness, he reached for the door lock and pressed the button again. "Mom, I'm telling you something's wrong. I can feel it." I forced a laugh, though it rang hollow even to my own ears. "It's just a birthday, Ethan. Grandma's waiting, and the cake will melt if we don't get there soon." His eyes narrowed, unwavering. I know it's Grandma's birthday, but trust me, stop the car, please. My stomach twisted. Something in the innocence of his voice, the trust he usually gave so freely, made the hairs on my arms stand on end. For the first time, I allowed myself to truly listen to the warning that had been lingering in my gut since morning. I slowly eased the car to the side of the road, parking under the shadow of an old oak tree. The air felt heavier here, the sunlight dimmed by the canopy above, filtering through in fragmented shards. I turned to him, searching his face, trying to see what he saw. "Tell me what you feel, Ethan," I said softly. "Don't be scared to tell me." He swallowed, then whispered, almost as if afraid to speak louder. It's like someone is watching us. Someone wants to trap us. I don't know who, but I know it's not safe." A chill ran down my spine, colder than any winter wind. Memories I had buried deep, threats from the past, the people who had tried to manipulate me, betray me, flooded back. Faces, voices, and broken promises collided in my mind, each one sharper than the last. A part of me wanted to deny it, to dismiss it as a child's overactive imagination. But I couldn't. Not when he looked at me like that. Not when I felt the prickling of danger crawling up my neck. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We'll be careful. We'll figure this out together." I reached for my phone, fingers trembling, scrolling through contacts and scanning the neighborhood, as if the danger might be hiding behind a familiar door. The sense of unease grew with each passing second, a heavy pressure settling in my chest. Ethan's hand found mine, small but firm. "Mom, I've got you. Don't worry. We'll be safe." His words were simple, but they anchored me. I realized that his fear wasn't just a warning, it was a guide, a lifeline in a day that had begun so innocently but had already turned treacherous. I took a deep breath and forced my mind to focus. Whoever had planned this, whoever had woven danger into the very fabric of what I thought was a normal day, was going to regret underestimating me. And I was done being naive, done letting betrayal catch me off guard. I glanced at Ethan, determination hardening in my chest. Today wasn't just my mother's birthday anymore. It was the day I would protect my son, uncover the truth, and face the betrayal that had been lying in wait. And I wouldn't let anyone get away with it. The drive resumed, but the world outside seemed altered, as though the streets themselves had conspired with the unease settling in my chest. Every familiar turn, every ordinary streetlight, now seemed like a silent witness to the danger we had narrowly escaped. Ethan sat rigid in the backseat, eyes sharp, scanning every shadow. I couldn't help but feel proud of his instincts. They were frighteningly accurate for someone so young, but I also couldn't shake the ache in my heart for the innocence he had been forced to leave behind. My mind raced, replaying faces and events I had tried to forget. Betrayal had a way of creeping in quietly, wearing the mask of trust until the knife was already buried. And now, sitting in the car with my son, who had sensed it before I did, I realized just how deep the betrayal ran. It hit me in fragments. There were the phone calls I had dismissed, the strange delays, the way someone had always seemed to know my schedule too precisely. At first, I had brushed it off after all. Paranoia was easier than the truth. But now, every tiny anomaly slotted into place like pieces of a dark puzzle. And there it was, the truth I had resisted, the one I had convinced myself I didn't want to see. Someone I had trusted, someone I had called a friend, had manipulated everything, weaving danger into what should have been a day of love. The realization burned through me, sharp and bitter. Betrayal wasn't just an idea. It was a tangible force that had followed me from the past, lying in wait for the perfect moment to strike. I glanced at Ethan, his small face set in a determined expression, and I felt a surge of protective fury. Whoever had planned this would not touch him, not while I was breathing. I was no longer just a mother bringing her son to a birthday. I was a guardian, a force fueled by the memory of every slight, every deceit, every time I had been underestimated. We pulled into a quiet parking lot near a small cafe, somewhere I thought I could gather my thoughts safely. Ethan stayed close, his hand finding mine again, a small anchor in the storm. I took out my phone, scrolling through messages, emails, and old notes. Clues leapt out at me now, invisible before. The ambiguous words, the unexplained delays, the subtle nudges that had made me doubt myself. And then it clicked, the antagonist's identity. My chest tightened, a cold mix of rage and sorrow filling me. This was someone I had trusted implicitly, someone whose betrayal cut deeper than any stranger's knife ever could. Their motive, pride, jealousy, and a twisted sense of justice, all masked by charm and feigned affection. The realization made my fingers tremble as I typed out a single word to myself: revenge. I could feel it building inside me, a controlled fire that demanded strategy rather than impulsive action. This wasn't about violence, it was about exposing the truth, reclaiming my power, and ensuring that the betrayal would unravel in ways the betrayer could never anticipate. Ethan looked up at me, sensing the shift. "Mom, what now?" I smiled, though it was a thin, dangerous smile, tempered with emotion. "Now we plan, we watch, we wait. And when the time comes, we make sure the world sees exactly who they really are." He nodded solemnly, as if he understood far more than a child should. I felt a mix of pride and grief wash over me. My son had become my partner in this silent battle, and together we would face the darkness with hearts unyielding and a mind sharpened by betrayal. Today, the illusions were shattered. But the reckoning, the sweet, careful, emotional reckoning, was only beginning. The day that had begun so innocently, the day I thought was just my mother's birthday, had transformed into a battlefield of hidden truths and quiet fury. Every breath I took was measured, every glance calculated, as I and Ethan navigated the subtle traps the betrayer had left in our path. By late afternoon, I had pieced together the final threads of the scheme. The person who had orchestrated this day had believed themselves clever, hiding malice behind pleasantries and birthday wishes. But they had underestimated one thing: a mother's love and a child's instinct combined could unravel even the most meticulous plan. I parked a safe distance from the cafe where the final confrontation would take place, allowing Ethan to climb out first. His hand found mine, small and steady. "Mom will be okay, right?" I squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of his trust fuel my determination. "Yes, Ethan, we will. And when this ends, it will end on our terms." Inside, the betrayer sat, smiling as if nothing were amiss, sipping coffee with an air of triumph. They had counted on fear, on hesitation, on my inability to act. But I stepped forward, my eyes locking with theirs, and for the first time I saw genuine unease ripple across their face. "Surprised to see me?" I asked softly, each word deliberate, calm, but laced with the weight of accumulated betrayal. Their smile faltered. I didn't expect. You thought I'd fall for it, that I wouldn't see through the lies, the manipulations, the games you've been playing for years." My voice didn't rise, but every syllable cut sharper than a blade. They tried to interrupt, tried to explain, but I held up my hand. "No, you need to hear this. You've underestimated the power of truth and the strength that comes from protecting what matters most." Ethan stepped beside me, small but unwavering. "We knew something was wrong, and we figured it out, all of it." His voice was steady, brave. "And now everyone will know the truth." I had prepared meticulously, not for violence, but for exposure. Every email, every message, every piece of evidence had been arranged, ready to be delivered to the people who had trusted the betrayer, ensuring that their lies could no longer hide behind charm or familiarity. As the truth unfolded, the betrayer's facade crumbled. Panic replaced arrogance, fear replaced smugness. The realization that they had lost control, that the day they had planned as a trap had instead become their undoing, was written plainly across their face. I watched silently, savoring the moment not with cruelty, but with the deep satisfaction of justice served. My son's eyes met mine, wide with awe and pride, and I felt the profound bond between us strengthen, tempered by the fire of shared struggle. When it was over, we walked out together into the fading sunlight. The day's terror had passed, replaced with a quiet triumph. My mother's birthday, once a symbol of innocence and joy, now carried a deeper meaning: survival, resilience, and the reclamation of power. Ethan leaned against me, tired but smiling. "We did it, Mom." "Yes, Ethan," I whispered, hugging him close. "We did, and no one will ever take that from us again." As we drove home, the weight of betrayal lifted, replaced by hope, love, and a subtle, sweet satisfaction. Today had tested us, broken illusions, and unveiled truths, but it had also reminded me that even in the face of deception, the bonds of family, courage, and justice could never be destroyed. And so, the birthday that began with fear ended with triumph, a lesson etched forever into the hearts of a mother and her son. Betrayal may sting, but love, patience, and resolve are the sweetest revenge of all.